Time for a spring clean. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am getting rid of a couple of books. These are either going to be books that I have already read and that I know I'm not going to go back to, books that I have already read but some other people need to read them, or in some cases it's books that I haven't even picked up myself but I've got a feeling I'm not going to enjoy them, or I've got friends who told me that these are not the books for me. As with the other unhauls that I have done, these are going to go to the library in my local area, or I'm going to give them to family and friends who I think are going to really enjoy them. It's just that they are not going to be staying on my shelves for much longer. Up first is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and this is just going out of my hands because somebody else needs to have it in theirs. This is a book that I think every single person in the world needs to read. It talks a lot about consent, it talks a lot about victim shaming, it talks a lot about the legalities that go around a rape case when it's gone to trial. I am infinitely proud that Chanel Miller put words to paper and told everyone her story, and I think it's a story that everybody needs to listen to. Next up is Ginger and Me by Alyssa Suave. This came to me in a book box, and honestly, I think it's just not one that I'm going to reach for. I've read the back of this book, and to be really honest, it didn't sound like the kind of book that I want to reach for, but I think it's one that my dad is going to really enjoy, so I might give it to him when I see him next. Next up is When in Rome by Sarah Adams, and I genuinely really enjoyed this book. I found it so entertaining, and it also has a really great example of chemistry between two characters, even when the spice is low in this book. I'm definitely going to keep going with Sarah Adams's books, but this is just not one that I'm going to go back to. I have got another one of her books on my shelf ready to go, but this is just one that's not going to go back to. If I do want to go back to it at any stage in the future, I can just pick up an audiobook, or I can go and get this from the library back. Next up is Babble by R.F. Kuang, and this is probably the shortest time from getting onto my TBR to coming off of it. I bought this in January, it is now March, and I think this is one that I'm just not going to pick up in this format. If I do want to go back and read this again, which I think I am going to do, I actually have a Kindle copy of it that I completely forgot that I owned. So I will go back to the Kindle copy, or if I really need to, I'll go and get this one from the library, but I just don't think that I need to keep it anymore. Next up is Lucy Parker's Battle Royale, not Battle Royale. This is a baking romance, and to be honest, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I was hoping to. I didn't like any of the characters, I didn't like a lot of the story. I felt like it was really dragged and really slow. And there were a lot of side plots that I think should have been focused on more, and the main plot that we had, I think we shouldn't have focused on that as much. So honestly, this is just not one that I'm going to return to. Next up is the start of a series that was on my series intentions for 2024, and that is First Down by Grace Riley. I read Breakaway, which is the second book in this series, as part of a hockey romance vlog, and I did not enjoy it at all. I didn't like any of the characters, I didn't like the writing style, I felt like there was absolutely no plot to that book. It was just the two of them hooking up on a continuous basis. And that's not the kind of books that I want to read. I want there to be sex scenes, I want there to be spice, I want there to be smut. But I also want there to be something happening outside of that. I want to see a real connection. I want to see some kind of a plot evolving throughout this book. And I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen here again. So sadly, this is just not one that I think is going to entertain me. Next up is not just a goodbye to a book, but I think also a goodbye to an author, and that is Sarah Hogle. I really did not enjoy Just Like Magic. I found it to be way too far-fetched, way too complicated, way too slow, and a little bit too long for what was actually happening. And I found the same with You Deserve Each Other. I didn't really enjoy the writing style. I didn't feel any chemistry between the two characters. And I definitely did not want them to be together by the end of the book. And I think that if I've been bitten twice, it's probably time for us to say goodbye. Another author that I am probably going to say goodbye to is Lucy Score. This is Maggie Moves On, and it would be the second book of hers that I would try, except that my friend Michelle told me that this is probably not one for me. She told me a couple of things about the storyline and a couple of things about what happens, and it just didn't sound like something that was going to entertain me. I got this one a few years ago as part of a book box, so I think I'm just not going to keep it any longer. Another one that a friend warned me against is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akweke Emezi. My friend Bree from Four Paws in a Book told me that there is a really big infidelity plotline in this book, and that is something that I don't enjoy reading. I have absolutely no time for any plotlines that involve cheating in any way. So when she said to me that it was quite heavy in this book, it was kind of a time for me to say goodbye. Even though I'd only bought it a couple of months ago, even though I was really excited to give it a try because I'd heard some really great things about it, once you hear that a book has got something in it that you're not entertained by, it just doesn't work out. Next up is one that I'm rather sad to say goodbye to, and that is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely adore her work, but this was my least favourite of her romance series. I really did not like the characters in this book, and I really didn't enjoy any of the situations that they have put themselves into. I feel like if you have to write a story about a married couple who takes basically a year out to go on an extended break from one another, there's no reason for me to cheer these people on and to want them to get back together, which is kind of the main idea for a romance book. Sadly, this Taylor Jenkins Reid book just didn't work for me, but that doesn't mean I'm going to say goodbye to her work. An author, however, that I will definitely be saying goodbye to is Jasmine Guillory. This is Drunk on Love, and I hadn't even attempted this one because this would have been a fourth strike and you're out. I've really tried with her books. I tried with the first 2 books of the Wedding Date series, and I also tried with By the Book, which was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so I had high hopes that that one was going to work for me. And all of them fell really flat for me. I think it is just that I don't vibe with her writing style. I don't vibe with her storytelling. I find it to be a little bit slow, and I find it to be a little bit too long for what the book is about. So I think it's just time to say goodbye. Finally is Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. I read this book back in November, and I still to this day cannot remember what it was actually about. I feel like I wasn't even taking in what the story was about. It just happened about a family who was really into tennis, and then one of the family members goes missing. I feel like something of huge importance could have happened in this book, and because the storyline was so plodding along, and because it was so inconsequential to me, I can't really tell you what was happening in it. So, if I have so little memory of what this book was about, despite having spent so much time with it, I just don't think it was the book for me. That is the pile of books that I have been gathering from the start of January up until now that are going to be leaving my house. Have you done a recent clear out, and are there any books that you are thinking of potentially getting rid of? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me the house emoji, because all of these books are going to go off to new homes. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.